So here are all the ingredients I'm going to be using for my cheesy meatloaf. I've got shredded cheese, Sonny's sweet barbecue sauce, Mrs. Dash in steak flavor, smoked paprika, sea salt, of course the egg, V8 juice, and Italian style breadcrumbs, and then of course I've got my meat, which just happens to be grass-fed beef. And then I've got my cookie sheet that I'm going to use instead of a bread pan, which is what most people use. And I'm going to lightly oil it with this avocado high heat oil. I like this because it doesn't use any kind of propellant in it. Okay, this is just an aside, but when I cracked my egg, the yolk came out looking pretty flat like that. And I really like to use my ingredients as fresh as I can. So I'm going to do another egg and see if I can get a more firm yolk out of it. Okay, and you see there, that's what I was looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and stir this up so that we can add it into the meat. I'm going to go ahead and add the egg in. I'm going to take my kind of oversized fork and get this all mixed in here. And I'm going to put the phone down because I really need 2 hands to do this. Alright, next we're going to get 1 cup of a dry measure of these breadcrumbs, and I use the Italian style as it gives a little bit more flavor. I know some people use oatmeal, but I think the breadcrumbs have a better consistency. Okay, so I'm going to add that right in there, and then I'll stir that up off camera as well. Well, the breadcrumbs don't stir in very good yet because I need to add my trusty V8 drink. And this is just the original flavor. And I can always add more if after I stir this up I think it's too dry. I do think this is still looking dry, so I'm going to go ahead and add another can of the V8. That way we have a nice and juicy, moist meatloaf. Okay, so that's all mixed in. It looks beautiful and moist, and now it's time to season it. The only bad thing about meatloaf is you cannot season it to taste, but you can season it to smell, but you cannot smell salt. So, let's see if I can adequately show you guys how much salt I'm going to put in here. And I'm going to put more after I mix this in, so just hold on. Alright, that got stirred in, so I'm going to add some more. And this is fine sea salt, which goes pretty far. See, I need 2 hands because my bowl's going to move. Now, this is one of my favorite ingredients. I use this in so many things. My daughter used to be a vegetarian until recently, and we made a lot of bean burritos, and we faked them tasting like meat by using this steak flavored Mrs. Dash. It works really well. There is no salt in it, so when you use Mrs. Dash, you have to add your own salt separately. But that's good because that way, if you don't want to use as much salt, you have that option. You can add a little bit more of the Mrs. Dash. Now, smoked paprika is actually a new ingredient for me. I made it up myself, and I can basically determine if something's going to be good by the way it smells, and this has a smoky smell, and I've used it before. I've tried it on deviled eggs, and I've tried it in a honey mustard sauce that I made, and it adds an interesting smoky, almost barbecue flavor. I'm going to use just a little bit of it in my meatloaf because I haven't used it before, and I want to make sure that it's not crazy. But I think it's going to be good, or I wouldn't obviously be even bothering putting it in. I'm just going to put a little bit, just that much, that's it. This is the part where you guys might think I'm crazy, but I am going to smell it so I can determine how much spices I need. This needs a little bit more Mrs. Dash. So bring the camera closer so we can see. Now, I've made this many times so I can kind of visualize, because as you can see, these spices are pretty large. And so I'm used to visualizing what it's going to look like. So you can see those in there. Sometimes I make this with caramelized onions added in, but my kids have requested that there not be onions in this one. I think it's great with caramelized onions, but I'm making a kid-friendly meatloaf this time. I would never put in raw onions. I know some people do that. I do not recommend raw onions at all. Alright, let me sniff this again. Come on. One time I touched my face with the meat. Nothing bad happened to me though. Smells good to me. Okay, now, here's one of the parts that differ from most recipes. I'm gonna put it on this cookie sheet, and I did already grease it off camera. I'm only gonna put down half of my meat, and you'll see why in a minute. Now I happen to be making a boring rectangle, but you know what? You can make it into a heart or anything you want. Now, the star of the recipe. Shredded cheese.
I'm gonna get a close-up of the cheese.
Isn't it beautiful? Now, meat on top of the cheese.
You literally put meat right on top of where I was zoomed in.
It's like making a work of art.
With meat and cheese.
Okay, so what I've been working on is trying to make this meatloaf the same thickness all around, because if one end is thinner, it's going to cook earlier, and I don't want that because then that part will be dried out. Okay, now we're almost done. My son requested to do the fun part, so he's going to spread the Sonny's sweet barbecue sauce across the top and the sides using this beautiful tool that I affectionately refer to as the wobbly thing. I have no idea what its actual name is. Okay, we are ready to go in the oven. It's preheated to 350, and I'm going to set it for 45 minutes. Okay, we're ready to cut it. Let's see how it looks on the inside. Ooh, look at all the cheese on the inside. We're gonna serve this up and see if the kids like it. Okay, here you go, Benny. Okay, we said the blessing, so you can eat it now. It's slightly different than my other meatloaf because I added smoked paprika this time. Just a little bit.
Five stars on this. 5 stars on the meat.
That didn't seem believable. Was it good?
Yeah.
Why did you gulp like that? Honest review, 5 stars?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the meatloaf.
What do you think? Can you taste the smoked paprika as like a new flavor?
Yeah.
And what does it taste like?
Smoked paprika.
Like a kind of a barbecue-ish flavor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's see. I haven't tried it yet.